And I really didn't understand at the time what they were programming in me, but I saw these kids playing rocks, with like no soccer cleats. And they were just so happy and so elated that as I grew up, I realized he was teaching me leadership in a community-driven way. And, I think a lot of Latinos who come and we, do different business models and we try to just make it for our kids. The scaling the business part is something that was missing, at least from my parents. They worked so hard.
But hopefully we figure out a way that our kids can talk to us and deal with things through us instead of having to wait until things get so rough and so ingrained in you that you need therapy to go through all the layers that we've been having to go through.
Sometimes we're so disconnected with she's a mom at home, but when she's in work, it's just all work mode. And you have to understand that it's not just a straight line. We are moms throughout. Hi, this is Sienna Calderon with the Legacy Circle podcast. And today I'm happy to have these two beautiful moms and women out here. So I have Yuri Perez and Elva Trevino. Thank you guys for coming on.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Today, I know this will be probably launching later, but yesterday was Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day.
Thank you. Igualmente.
Thank you. And so today, first, if you guys can each introduce yourselves, what you guys do, and then your kids and ages.
Go.
No, you go.
You're so much better at this.
We're tonight today. Get better, no better. See, that's where it starts. So my name is Elva Trevino. I'm in health and entertainment. I'm both in the for-profit and nonprofit space, and I'm a single mom. I've had a lot of health issues that have gone through building my brands, and so for me, being a mother is the number one leadership trait out of all the accolades and things you could probably read about. It all comes back down to her. So my daughter's 15 years old. She's a freshman in high school. We're planning her quince. She's a violinist, so she's also in music and some of the, very passionate about the health industry too, and as an athlete. So yeah, we're just, trying to build a generation, and she and I both are first generation. So what's important to me is duplicating in her way, being that she's from a whole different, oh my God, I can't even keep up with that generation. They're different, they're built different, right? But that's a nutshell.
Thank you.
Each other was so much better.
Oh, come on.
I'm also, what do you say? Non-profit and for-profit? We're both.
Yeah, leader. She's a leader. She's an icon in the city of Houston, if you don't know this lady.
Wellness, startup technology, and I do have one baby at home. He's almost 3, and one coming in pretty soon, probably when you launch this podcast. So, yeah, wellness and family, my thing.
Thank you. And so I really wanted to start off with, if you guys can take me to like your childhood and maybe what that relationship was with your parents growing up. So whoever would like to start.
Go for it.
Well, I was born the same day as my brothers, but we have different ages. So it was like 9 years older and 6 years older. And then I came in. And so I took over birthdays. So that was my first thing, is that I was the girl, they were boys. So that was fun. But my brothers are my family. There's a saying that tienes costas grandes, like you have big, strong bags because you have a lot of people that support you. So that's how I grew up, feeling very supported by my family.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I love that. I love her accent too. It's so cool. For me, I was born in Phoenix, Arizona. So and I was born American, which is my Spanish. We're still working on over here. But both my parents were entrepreneurs. They were very community driven. So I grew up, one, with us moving all over the country because of work my dad did in construction. And then also, just kind of him trying to build the American dream. Most of our family's from Monterrey, Mexico, from that side of it. But, at 9 years old, I saw him donating money from some of the little, businesses he started in construction to kids in inner communities in Reynosa, where we also had some side businesses like a little arcade room and, little chispas and stuff like that. And I really didn't understand at the time what they were programming in me, but I saw these kids playing rocks, with like no soccer cleats. And they were just so happy and so elated that as I grew up, I realized he was teaching me leadership in a community-driven way. And, I think a lot of Latinos who come and we, do different business models and we try to just make it for our kids. The scaling the business part is something that was missing, at least from my parents. They worked so hard, and, I'm the youngest daughter of three girls. And so I'm kind of like the son in the family. I kind of took the reins, I feel like, of what they taught us. My sisters are very powerful in their own ways. But in business, it definitely from early on childhood has been programmed, and you can't tell me I can't do stuff. So I think that comes from my, some of my Mexican Reynosa roots too.
No, I love that. And so, Yuri, explain to us more of maybe how your parents kind of shaped you or what their parenting style was.
Empowering, when that was not a word. Like, I was never demanded to do good in school. It was obvious that I was going to do good in school. Like, I was never told to do stuff. It was obvious. It was given. It was a given. Like, nobody needed to tell me to graduate with honors. Like, it was supposed to happen, but you don't realize those things until you are older. And it's like, they treated me to a certain extent, just like my brothers, but actually better, And I would always fight with my brothers, trying to be just as good as they were, as strong as they were. My brothers are huge. The one that passed, he was a black belt in jiu-jitsu world champion. The other one is like muscle, and he looks like a wall. But I wanted to be stronger, so that's where I started a lot of the training and stuff like that. But my parents, my mom is my best friend, and my dad always, he never, it's like, they always put me up. Like, it was always like that. Yeah.
I love that. I mean, that's good to hear, especially from two Latino households where I think sometimes there's certain cultural things that we experience just from like even generational, but that you guys have been able to become entrepreneurs, to be leaders in your own rights. How has like motherhood, your idea of motherhood kind of evolved over time?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's being the youngest of three. For me, I was never around diapers, so I had to read all the books when I first found out. That was the first thing. Her dad's actually the second oldest out of four brothers, so that was helpful. But I was like, what am I going to do with her now? Like, where are y'all going from the nurses? But I've always been passionate about trying to be transparent with her in terms of like the realness of what life is, which is something I feel like my parents showed me. Being able to have that trust and that transparency where you can have the hard conversations, you can, the empowerment word, I think in Latino culture, it's sometimes kind of missing sometimes. My family was the same as yours. So, they made us believe we could do literally anything. But they also put some standards in place for grades and stuff like that. So my daughter's world, I've always wanted her to be inspired by who she is at the root of her. And being in the public eye, I'm sure you can say the same. Mm-hmm. They try to figure it out, but I've seen a lot of successful people's kids grow up where their parents are in the spotlight, in the publications, in all these places, but then they get so introverted and quiet and they start trying to measure up to something that's just not them. So for my daughter's sake, I've always wanted to do what my parents did for me, which is to inspire her to be authentically her. And over time, I feel like now that she's a teenager, it's getting more real. But I think the evolution of each chapter, every new middle school, I had to read new books. What worked before didn't work anymore. And even though we co-parent, her dad is just as committed to that transforming ourselves so we can be stronger parents for her and hopefully keep that same trust and transparency long until she has kids.
Yeah, I love that.
Way after 15.
Just like, putting that out there.
I want to be a young grandma, so I don't know about that. All those teachings.
Yeah.
Yuri, what about you? What was your, idea of motherhood before?
Taking care of family, it's fun for me. I love cooking. I love being at home. I love telling people what to do. So it's like I just have one mind that I could. But having two boys, I was just telling her I'm a feminist to the core, like really? A leftist feminist to the core. And then I have two boys. I'm like, all my plans just went and
you can borrow mine for a day.
I will. And so my goal is to make them be aware of this empowerment, this beautiful womanhood that we have created, and to then from there be able to be great men and great leaders and great, partners in everything and to enjoy life because we're fun, It's the fight that is going on right now is just to stabilize, I guess, what's going to come later. And they are going to be very young. So I'm hoping that I can raise them to appreciate that and have fun with life.
Yeah, and I'm sure you will. And I know when I first became a mother, I know that there was just a lot of things that you kind of start maybe questioning, or just have all these new realizations about, okay, well, geez, I have to have a strong stance on this, and what am I going to teach my child? And started thinking about my own, parents. So have there been things that you have taken with you from what your parents did? And then are there things that maybe are like strong boundaries? Like, I don't want to take that into how I parent my child.
In college, I wrote a letter of how to be a role model, or how to have a role model, and also how to have role models that are what not to become. And I think not just in our parents, but also everybody around us when we grow up. We have such great examples of leadership styles that we can learn to take from, and also say, you know what, that doesn't feel right in my gut that's correct. And so I think a lot of this generation is breaking those chains in a sense, right? Things like raising our temper, kind of vocalizing it. I know that was an issue for me in my early 20s with relationships until I realized where it was coming from. So I feel like the power and the strength of my mom to see that woman, I never saw a tear come out of her eyes, but I saw her fight in her. When things got tough during the pandemic as a business owner, and even with my 13 kidney surgeries before that, there were moments where people on the outside had no idea what was going on. But because of her fight, I had blinders on into like what I needed to do as a mom, and I feel like I had that role model with her. In terms of my dad, I think we lived in so many different states growing up. So the ability to start all over again, I would say was probably the best lesson he's ever given us. Mija, you can do it. Yes, you're the best. Get the good grades. Go for the A's. But empowered us to do it. But there have been circumstances that have ripped the rug from underneath me in building business and also being a mom. And I feel like sometimes we're holding on to things or titles or ways of doing it this way that if we let things go and let God, then sometimes they're meant to fall apart because he's trying to help build us back up into something bigger and better, including our families and businesses sometimes. So I feel like that example from my father to just start all over, and go to a new city and, do it all over again. That has been my saving grace when business has been crazy. And, as you build, people start to want to also slow you down. That ability to start all over is like an arsenal that I'm so grateful now looking at it of him giving it to us,
No, I love that.
I love what you said, the role models of what not to do. The family drama and trauma that we have to break from, like, yo crecí en Panamá, I'm from Panama, and there's this machismo around all the economic, all the having 10 different women, 10 different children, all the woman is to blame for everything. Like, that's why I am such a feminist, is that I don't want that role model for my kids. I don't want the aggression from my kids. I don't want the fear, the terror that, that is coming home and everything has to be fixed and clean and organized and stuff like that. Is like that, for sure, that role model, I don't want it around my kids. Yeah. So baby daddy, he's a good guy, he's everything. But if I was exposed to that again, oh my gosh, all my alarms would go woo woo woo. Yeah. And at the same time, all that my mom put up with because she had a job, but she couldn't be independent. So that's why I'm so independent, right? It's like, I will not sacrifice my kids because I cannot support them, kind of thing. Like, it's such a trauma. Yeah. And of course, we all need therapy. That's it, please. I agree with therapy forever. But hopefully we figure out a way that our kids can talk to us and deal with things through us instead of having to wait until things get so rough and so ingrained in you that you need therapy to go through all the layers that we've been having to go through.
Well, and really quick too, I think, why wouldn't you want to understand what makes you tick? That's the part that blows my mind with people. So awareness is everything. And I think every next chapter requires a new awareness of yourself and then your kids and then your spouse and then all these things. So I think if Latinos can grip that part, then you start to see the way you're reacting as there's something deeper that's calling your attention. And so, we know people are second generations of the same sort of habits and emotional outbursts or whatever that looks like. That was me for a little bit. But anyway, so I think awareness is a big part of it too.
Huge.
Well, and I think off of that too, I think, as we were talking about evolution, how you were saying that, things have changed. And with each chapter I know you have a little more skin in the game, but I think that my child's only a year and a half, but I feel like there's so much growing that I've done just in that time frame, and I think you just start to unravel and learn more of who you are. So if you guys maybe can share some of that, of what that looks like, right? Because I'm sure that you guys have started to understand yourselves more and in a different way. And I think even once you become a mom, and I think, you know, there's a saying of like, you're not the same person anymore. So if you guys can kind of share some of that.
I don't have the same body anymore.
Oh my God.
You have the same energy. This girl's energy is like, you want her everywhere with you.
With Javi, with my first one, I really didn't want to have any other babies.
Yeah.
And then my brother passed, and that was the transition, the awareness of life and death so close, and then being pregnant and feeling like it's part of him looking for, you know, being like, I'm sorry I left and let me come back kind of thing. I don't believe in these things. Believe me, I'm like super skeptic, but I feel it that way. And then facing your own mortality, like that part to me is, that one blew up my world. That one is like, okay, I'm happy to have another baby so he can grow up with somebody else. You know what I mean? For my baby to have somebody, because I waited until I was 40 to have a baby.
Yeah.
So whenever he's 40, I'm going to be like, hopefully I'll be around. But like, I love that he's going to have another person around for him. And so I don't know if it's being a mom or just being aware of how quickly it goes by. I mean, you have so many surgeries that you were aware of this before, I'm sure. I wasn't.
Yeah.
You know, I'm thinking we're going to live forever and I'm going to live until 120 and life is going to be great because I work out, I eat well, da. And then all of a sudden the rug gets pulled off.
Yeah.
And then you have 2 babies back to back and you lose your best friend kind of thing. So being a mother, but also the awareness.
Yeah. I think for me, I've always been kind of hard to keep up with, and I'm wired for relationships, long-term thinking anyway. So I don't date. I don't do dating. I've never done a dating app in my life. So as a single mom, you would think, oh, okay, Elva is probably, you know, what do they call it? I don't even know. I can't keep up with modern times. But like, my phone is very dry in a sense of like, my boundaries are so thick that for me as a mom, with my health, with my business, with my daughter, one thing I had to come to terms with for me personally was that it starts with me in terms of boundaries. And not so much in the sense of like letting anyone into your world, but I have too much to lose and to protect in terms of my daughter seeing the example, not just hearing me talk to her. Like she's never seen me put a boyfriend before her. You know, there's certain things I have been so stubborn about. And, you know, some people on the outside are like, well, what do you mean you don't date people? You're not. No, I don't. Because right now my focus as a mom is so hyper-focused, and my businesses and my own health. Those things will come around later. I don't have time for it right now. But I think for me, the leadership in Elva, personally as a mom, it's been, if anyone can rock your boundaries, they just weren't strong enough yet. So whether it be emotionally draining us every day, or personal relationships or friendships or family or things that we keep around our universe that, you know, I don't want her to ever feel what being a single mom is. I can only hope that despite those things, we're showing her the right path, you know. Things like our faith now are stronger now more than ever, which is something I leaned on during my surgery. So all in its due timing, and there's no timeline. That's like, it's universal. It's like as we are ready to grow, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How have, because I know your daughter obviously is older than our kids, but how have you kind of instilled some of those? I know that, you know, you push her through, whether it's, you know, the sports and different activities, but how have you kind of helped her with her confidence, or helped her with her self-esteem in a time where there's social media and there's this and there's that, and what, you know, share advice? Well,
she tells people at school not to worry about her dad. It's me that's overprotective in a sense, for good reasons, you know. I'm like, Jesus Christ, here we go. I have to let her make her own mistakes too, and we can't force these things on our kids. So for me, everything is like accessible to them. So a lot of the advice I've been given from people who are older than me, and I admire kind of the way their family leadership is, which is something I've admired for the last like 10, 15, 20 years of people who build businesses. The first thing is I try to bring her around people who are both about family and their companies. And if their family's in shambles because their company grew, then that doesn't gel with something I'm trying to really show her, you know. And everybody has a story, so no one's perfect. So that's the first part, is trying to, you know, make sure, like, you know, I grew up listening to all kinds of music. And so she can listen to The Weeknd and things like that, but she's also going to have to learn how to find the balance of listening to worship for herself and rather than force her, I'm trying to show her the way and explain to her why we want to be able to sort of balance these things out, take our time with boyfriends, like don't rush into these teen emotions, like get your acceptance letter first, or like at least think logically, maybe more than I did at that age, you know? So we grew up in A-Leaf, so it was a little while back then. But it's also kind of giving her the space to make some error. And she is very hard on herself, as her dad and I have been as athletes too. So as she goes through that moment of shutdown, because she's more introverted, I'm allowing her to sort of self-analyze herself and then keep teaching her to pass her worries up to God. And those two things have really helped her so far. Now, ask me next year, it might be totally different. But until that stops working, I'm going to keep going with that.
I love that. And I know we've kind of touched on like who your support system is in the village, but how has your villages, your support system kind of played a part in your motherhood? Yeah.
Thank God for that. Because my mom is adorable, but she's also legally blind. You know, she's my best person. Yeah. But at the time to you know, she's like, "Hi, it was 40 years ago. I don't remember how it was." So my friends and my cousins and like my brothers, like I said before, they've been there. Like, oh my gosh, for this part, I am not the. Oh my gosh, I want to be a mom and I'm a mom and it's my blessing, it's my identity. I am not, you know, I'm happy, I love it, I have fun with it, but that's not my identity. So I didn't read the 1,000 books that I was supposed to read to be able to take care of my baby.
Well,
so
I
read
2 of them worked, so it was a lot.
I do a lot of podcasts and I do ask, you know, around, and people tell me all the time, and I love that. I love it. It makes it easier for me to figure out the daily stuff with my baby, and now with this one. But your tribe is so important, man. It is so huge for dealing with having babies and business.
Yeah. Well, I like what you said, Elva, actually, about the aligning who you do business with, or just your relationships and how that impacts your child, because I think a lot of what we're trying to show our kids is, okay, we are in alignment with what we do, right? We're not trying to just tell them what to do, but we're trying to show them, right? And I know sometimes it can be tricky, right? I know that sometimes you have to let go of certain relationships, and you know, speak to that of just how have you reshaped maybe some of those relationships so that your child can see something more positive.
The relationships around her, you mean?
Yeah.
Like in terms of the adults?
Yes.
Oh, you know, I love everybody. Like, and I've grown up. I mean, I used to be a bartender at 21 years old, and so I love people from all walks of life. Even, you know, there's people in my family that are atheists, and they're around my daughter because maybe the family principle part is something that connects. I think for me, it's we have to know who we are as the adult first. And we also have to have some realness with that, because no one's perfect. And we need to question ourselves on what are some of the things that we're still growing in terms of like habits, you know, word choices. There's a mom, because, you know, I'm franchising my Gym Champions Club, and I went through such a great little just beta test of listening to the women in my gym at times. And the way I heard them speaking to themselves, I'm like, screw the people around your kid. How are you talking to them every day in your 4 walls? And if they hear things like you body shaming yourself, being very hard on yourself, being very negative, being chismosa, like all these things that are just cancers into our homes that are just kind of tainting the energy in a sense, then we need to really kind of focus on that before even the friendships and family. I think for me also, it's like you can love people from afar, but that doesn't mean you have to invite them in your 4 walls. And I am very protective of what I'm trying to build for her, but I also can't shelter her from the way the world really is, you know, and she understands that part. So I think letting her see it, but also giving her an awareness of, you know, do you want life to go this way or this way? And understanding the whys we can go those pathways, you know what I mean? So even if we have friends that are loyal 20 years, 30 years, or family members, let's be real. I mean, there's some things in our, you know, family that are, you know, they're still toxic. So I think her ability to call toxicity out, even if she happens to be around it in some event, that for me is like, okay, you know, I can only hope that you have the vision that I'm trying to instill in you. But yeah, I think it goes back to boundaries too. I can't make those decisions for people, but just keep taking accountability ourselves as parents. Like, what are we inviting in for them?
Yeah. And, both of you guys are entrepreneurs. How does that impact, motherhood for you guys?
What she was saying right now, that the boundaries, I wasn't good at that. I'm a social butterfly, but golly, the world, the universe went like this.
For you?
Yeah, and I was like, "Dee," it's like, okay, let me just follow the lead of whatever is. Let me just listen and pay attention. And in reality, it took so many people away from me, and I was like, wow. So, talking about protecting them from the world and all that stuff. When I was building the app, it was for DEI. It was the easiest way to sell it, right, to corporations, because it's fitness, wellness, and all for corporations. And then this year's election happened, and that became a toxic word, and you couldn't use it anymore. And that, all your strategy goes to hell in business, and you're like, hold up, okay, what's going on? And then all this strategy became family. And I was like, again, the world is moving me to where I have to be, because there's a lot of people who still do DEI and are very proud and but it moved me towards family. And I was like, okay, this is, and you were talking about it. She was talking about it. It's like, family is the space that we need to focus on.
Yeah.
And I had 1,000 friends, and I invited them all to my house, and it was a party. And now it's like my relationships are my group is so much smaller and so tighter. And I feel it's the universe protecting that energy for my babies.
100%.
Like, and I even tell my mom, like, I need to, I'm sure your baby is the most beautiful baby for you, but my baby to me is the most beautiful, and he has curly hairs and big eyes and thick lips. And I'm like, I need to teach him how to protect himself now. And he's 3. And he's like, it drives me. It's a little bit of that anxiety, but now I'm aware of the world just going, protect. And it's that awareness with the business and the family and protecting your kids, It's like,
no, it's good.
Well, I think it's important too that, like you said, in terms of business, that you do treat it as a family, as we've been saying, because I think sometimes we're so disconnected with, oh, well, she's a mom at home, but when she's in work, it's just all work mode, and there's a clear line, but it really doesn't work that way. And I think that, I've worked in corporations and stuff, so it's like you have to understand that it's not just a straight line. We are moms throughout the whole day, whether if we have to have our phones, and there's like some of that anxiety, right? But you're on call like all day. And I think that we have, as a society, have to have more awareness and compassion for people that there's no clear line,
Yep.
I think that's the beauty of women becoming CEOs and bosses.
Yes.
Because the way we are going to manage our companies are including the family and are paying attention to kids and to families and to being able to breastfeed while we're having a podcast and stuff like that. Like literally, the way we are going to build it, it's way different than what we've had before. And I'm glad that we're not trying to copy what men did, but we're creating our own spaces the way we want to run them.
Well, and here's a harsh PSA for a lot of people who listen to this later. Let people live their lives. Like, just let people be them. And if you see a smile on their face, whether they're a sibling or your kid or, obviously within reason, like, don't let them hurt themselves or other people. But just stop trying to force everybody to have a title and a certain copycat thing. We're not meant to be like that. If someone has a different lifestyle, right? I mean, I've had people throw all kinds of things at me, like, oh, is she, this way or that way? And, like, just the speculation sometimes. And it's just like, if you just would stop trying to fit everybody's, world into a certain box that you think is the right way, you don't know what the right way is. And a lot of entrepreneurs, we have to break those molds because we do things opposite. There are teachers and nurses and doctors and all these people who sometimes, let's say education, they go through a certain pathway to do things. Whereas the majority of entrepreneurs are the rebels of society, geniuses, but also they hire people with those degrees, like at times to run their companies. Or marriage, or the way we raise our kids, just let people be. And so I think if you let go of the needing to make everyone's lives make sense, it's going to help you guys, the chismosas out there, to like really just relax. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. We can talk about that subject forever. But you saw me. Yeah. Okay. Let's bring it back.
No, I love that. And, I think too,
See, there is an outburst. Now it's tame though.
you guys just both being entrepreneurs. And I know, Elva, you bring your daughter to things, you expose her to that. You are just a powerhouse and you speak your mind. These are things that, I mean, the next generation, at least for your kids, you guys, I'm very honored to have you guys here because I think you guys are sharing, like you said, you're revolutionized just a new way and being proactive and ahead of the times to counteract what is going on around here. And I really do appreciate you guys for being here today. And this is Legacy Circle. So, our big question is, what is the legacy that you guys want to leave behind, whether it's for your kids or just for your businesses? What is that for you guys? Yuri?
Love. Amor. That's it. Put more love out there.
Yeah.
That's
Love
good.
that.
I think helping people, I mean, that's just really what it's about, and instilling that in the communities. Like, some people think they can't, but you can. Everyone has a voice, so learn to find it and then help people. And if we did more of that, then it's not just a legacy, it's all of our legacy. It's all intertwined.
Yeah. So how can we support you guys? Share your, Instagrams and services so people can contact you guys, Yuri?
So Yuri Amor and Fit Mix Communities is a nonprofit, and the app is not ready yet, but it's called Yuyo.love.
Yes, I love it. I can attest for her. She's awesome. So we pulled her up to do some nonprofit stuff. For me, I'm trying to disappear more from the public, so don't come find me. I'll find you. No, but you can follow me on Instagram, @Elva with a V. And we're in the middle of a bunch of projects. I'm not really posting too much, but we're working with the communities and intertwining different leaderships and things for health and entertainment. So if you're in those industries, reach out and send us your story. You never know, you can end up on some major platforms.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
us.
And thanks, CCN.